Shalom. Kol Halalimna Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak Badash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, elder bishops of Great Millstone. And shalom to the prophets of that body. And shalom to the 144,001 third. May peace and blessings be upon your households. Okay? And start with Brakti Hawa, Brakti Al Shai, Brakti Hawa, Brakti Al Shai, Brakti Hawa, Brakti Al Shai. Kal halalim la benawa Yahweh Alahayanawa Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakak Badash. Kal halalim la benawa Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakak Badash. Now, I don't like calling this Jake here, regardless of which religion or he followed, he's still a Jake, he's still a brother, I'll call him Cassius Clay. And Cassius Clay is more than likely, listen, these names like Cassius Clay, all these names are, listen, they all go back to Israelites, okay? Everything, all right? On our names, the real Irish names, the real Scottish names, the real English names, they're all Israelite names, all right? But when the so-called white man came to power, they took our names, all right? They took our names, chucked them in a box, shuffled them, and then gave it back to us. And especially with all of the English-speaking Jakes deleted during the so-called Black Plague in England, right? So a lot of the Jakes that came over from parts of Europe may have not spoken English, or may have spoken Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, German, etc., right? So they were given different names. Well, some of them kept their names, like the singer R. Kelly, Robert Kelly, could be a real Irishman. He's a Kelly. Eddie Murphy knows he's a Benjaminite. He's from the tribe of Benjamin. He's a so-called Jamaican, West Indian or whatever, right? And he's a Murphy. He's probably that's probably a real surname. Spiritual that he's an Irish surname, because where did Cromwell send all the real Irish to? To the West Indies. That's why you have a lot of these traveler gypsies with those Negro-esque features, but they have pale skin. You can sometimes just see it spiritually and recognize it. The spirit just hits you and lets you know, yeah, that's a Jake, man. That's a Jake. But there you go. I started deviating again like I always do. Salakia for that. Because the name, I hate that name, Muhammad Ali, irks me. It pisses me off. I don't like it. I'm going to call him Cassius Clay, right? And I'm not going to go into the politics and all the behind-the-scenes situation with this man, all right? But what I'm going to say is that when it came to the role of a man and the role of a woman, Cassius was pretty much going, spitting biblical bars unknowingly, or maybe he was doing it knowingly. But all of it comes from the scriptures: how a woman should dress, how a woman should behave, a man's role, a woman's role in an ideal world. We've got to emphasize in an ideal world, because after this, during this interview, right, this guy whoever this cracker is on TV, I forgot his name. Yeah, Parkinson. Yeah, he brought out some Amalekite-ish woman, Edomite, who came out, with that feminism bullshit. All right, and we see where feminism is taken to a lot of you women today. You're screaming online that you want a man, but you scared away all the men with your ratchet behavior. Now you are of age, your womb is dried up, you can't even bear no children, and your pussy's got so much mileage on it. No man wants you. Okay, they'll deal with you sexually, of course. If a man's going to pay for it, he's going to pay for it one way or the other. He goes to a prostitute or he goes to you. He's still going to pay for it to a certain degree. Right? So therefore, don't get it twisted. Men that want to have sex with you ladies, you single ladies, all right? Even if you had 100 men, it's just sex. There's no relationship involved. You understand? But so Cassius came out with a lot of common sense views on that. Now, I'm not going to play the video, even though there's a guy here, I don't know, some Ishmaelite or maybe some Elamite, that's posted it, but I'm not going to do it because, You know how Esau does. If you do the same thing as the other people are doing with regards to their channels, and it's safe to do so, Esau's going to pull out something, out of his box of tricks and say, oh yeah, this, that, and the third, or you're going to get a strike for this on your channel. So I'm just going to play what they stated, but I'm not going to show the imagery. Let's go to scripture first. Let's go to Titus 2, maybe go verse above. Titus 2 and 4. Okay, yeah, Titus, yeah, there you go. Titus 2, verse 3 onwards, yeah. Titus 2. The aged women, Titus 2, verse 3. The aged women, likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. Okay, so not being a chatty patty, talking bullshit all the time and commiserating with other women. All right, always speculating, spreading rumors, none of that nonsense. Okay, not drinking too much, not getting too nice. You want to get a little bit nice? Get nice with your husband in the bedroom. You can have an extra glass of wine there with him. All right, before you do the 1-2. Not given to too much wine. All right. Okay. Teachers of good things. So the aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. So you teach good things. All right. You be an example. All right. So if you be good example, the other women would follow. Okay. That's why most of our people are effed up. All right. You got older women, and it's always women that don't have a man, right? Start talking nonsense and talking bullshit online about women that want to be chosen, or women that are behaving in a certain way, that they're putting them out there, putting themselves out there in a way to acquire a relationship with an Israelite man. There's nothing wrong with that, provided you are a single woman. All right, as long as you're not attached to another man, you can put yourself out there to acquire an Israelite man. All right, there's nothing wrong with that. It's normal. Men and women are supposed to be together. All right, but you got women out there that are ugly, fat, unattractive, and they don't have a man. And even if they are attractive and in shape and don't have, they may not have a man either. They're just bitter. All right, it's always that. The women, other women always take advice of women that don't have a man, and even if they do have a man, right, they still give bad advice. Because remember one thing. Okay, I was married once. Okay, where other women get jealous. Other women always get jealous, and your wife's friends will try and come and get close to you as well. All right, all right, because they want that rod. That's what happens, and they want to do that so to destroy a relationship. There's nothing wrong with you having an extra woman, all right? Okay, I'm talking about. There's nothing wrong with having an extra woman as long as that outside of your so-called your relationship with your woman. You can have other women as long as it's single, okay? But there's certain women out there, right? Especially that are close to your wife. They have so-called friends, will try and do things like that to break the relationship up, especially if your woman is not aware of the truth to a certain degree, especially when it comes to the ladies, right? They'll just do that, Your woman's in the nose, that's different. But for the most part, the Lord has said about dealing with two sisters at the same time. Sometimes even a close friend of your wife could be like a sister figure, and it could cause issues. But for the most part, other women that are don't have a man or are in a real horrible situation will always give wrong advice to young girls that are impressionable, that are still learning, right? So the aged women likewise should be a behavior that, that is holy, that is separate, not like, compared to this world. There shouldn't be false accusers. There shouldn't be drinking too much with their friends, talking shit, dancing around in the back garden for the world to see their booties shaking. You want to get nice, you want to dance, dance in front of your husband. You want to, jump on a pole and swing around and all that shit. Get one, put one, ask your husband to put one in your bedroom if your bedroom's big enough. You can pole dance for him. All that kind of stuff is okay for your husband in the bedroom. All right. But with regards to teaching, being a good example, you're supposed to do that for other women. Verse 4, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children. Okay? And then you won't have so many gremlin babies out there. Verse 5, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home. See? To be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands. Now, that the word of the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahshai, be not blasphemed. Right? Now, if a woman said this in layman's terms to women today, right? What would other women say? Oh, that N-word ain't shit. I ain't doing that. I'm not doing none of that, because most women are wicked and Satan works with them, man. All right? Satan's like Batman, Eve is like Robin. They're part and parcel together, man. All right? But in the ideal world, this is how it's going to be in the kingdom. All right? Proverbs 31:10. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her prices are far above rubies. Okay? Now, what does virtuous mean? Definition of virtuous: having or showing high moral standards. Okay? Who can find a high moral standard woman? For her price is far above rubies. You damn right it is. King Solomon had over 1,000 wives, 700 Israelite women, 300 concubines, all what the world would call them today as tens, banging bodies, all right, gorgeous. He's only seen their nakedness. Nobody touched them except him, and he still didn't find a righteous woman amongst them. And he had a high amount of experience with the ladies of every ethnicity and every Israelite tribe. Every Israelite tribe and every ethnicity. And he still came out with that conclusion, all right, in his spiritual report with regards to the women. Okay? Now, if you can find a woman today that's workable, fair enough. That's cool, as long as, you're pleased to dwell with her. And the feeling is mutual, where she's okay with you. You don't have to sleep with one eye open and you flipping wake up and early hours of the morning and she's standing over you looking at you. A woman like that, especially in a crazy way, you better make sure she leaves. All right. So, if you can find one that's workable, that's cool. But, Proverbs 31:10, even the Lord said it, man. Who can find a virtuous woman? Who can find one? King Solomon didn't find one. They wanted him to build temples to the stones and statues and the gods they followed. Right? Proverbs 31:10. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Right? Proverbs 12:4. I sometimes like using this website as well, because it's got like the one scripture in all various forms, like the NIV and NLT. Certain scriptures come out, excellent in this breakdown this way as well. Certain scriptures, actually most of the scriptures come out excellent in King James Version. Either way, it has the same, but certain scriptures can be broken down in, as a world would say, in straightforward English, that people can understand. I like to check out both angles, especially with most scriptures. Certain I'll just leave out King James. Certain scriptures I'll just say, you know what, let me just go into this one and give a different sort of, it's not different, it's the same Same explanation, but in different wordings. All right. Proverbs 12:4. A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones. You know, and let's go to the NIV. A wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a disgraceful wife is like decay in his bones. Disgraceful wives. You women that like to say shut up to your husband in public. You women that like to give your husband dirty looks. You're women that you like to walk with your husband arm in arm and check out other men. you know. Now you're gonna say, okay, you are being circumspect, you're looking around. That's cool, but your eyes should not lock with another man's eyes for not more than a millisecond. It's like you look, as you move away. Unless that person's coming close to you within your vicinity, then obviously you've got to be looking, okay? Because beautiful women, right? As Cassius is going to break down. There's other interviews he's done as well, but this is going to touch on a woman's role in a household, right? And how men perceive women. All right, beautiful women are going to be very recognizable. Now, I'm not going to downplay beauty. There's nothing wrong with being attractive or a good-looking person. That's a blessing, especially if you're an Israelite and you're handsome or you're a beautiful, beautiful, curvaceous woman. Now, it's how you use that. Are you going to be a beautiful, curvaceous woman and give your pussy to everyone and dress half naked? And you got a man, then by the time you get to your 50th man, then you get yourself locked down and you're going to check out other men. That's a disgraceful woman. You being passed around to everyone, that's a disgraceful woman. You women that talk back and back chat to your husband, that's a disgraceful woman. You women that, act drunk in public, wear hard next to nothing, teach your children, completely bad behavior, that's a disgraceful woman. I watched the footage, I believe, was one of the great Millstone prophets that put the video up. It was a so-called black woman, so-called black woman, and she was teaching her two daughters to lie, to say to their daughters that their father hit their mother when he didn't hit their mother. The daughters were willing to get their father deleted by the police because the police will shoot a brother. And this Jake, actually, I don't know, I think, did he have dreads or whatever? This so-called black man. Police get called. What do you think they're going to do? Because they get different information. They got special codes and special wordings, and the same way you apply for a loan, they put a special word or a code next to it if you're so-called black or Hispanic to deny them the loan, right? The same way they have special codes and they have this special in-house clubs, be it the KKK or Masons or whatever, in these police departments, where if it's a so-called black man, their job is to to eliminate. All right, they're not going to use a stun gun then. And this black woman, this nigger woman, right, I'd say, he told her daughters, say, tell if did your father hit me? And they say, yeah, mama, daddy hit you. And the father was recording saying, no, I didn't, And then he started saying, no, you're gonna actually lie to our children. You're gonna teach our children to lie like that. Now, are you telling me that's a good example? Is that a good example to be a good woman, a noble character? That's a disgraceful wife, and that was a decay to that man's bones. Let's go to the NLT. A worthy wife is a crown for a husband, but a disgraceful woman is like cancer in his bones. Yeah. You're supposed to be a good example, to teach the younger women to love their husbands, to be discreet, to be chaste, to love their children, take care of their children, to wear appropriate attire, to wear attire that, still you have your femininity, right? You still look great, but you look like a woman that, a man, is not gonna say, drive by and whistle, You can see, it's like when you see some of these beautiful Ishmaelite women, and some of them are fine as fuck, right? But you see them, they're wearing they might wear Western clothes, they might wear a sundress with a head wrap. Now you look at them and smile, think, man, they look attractive, but you wouldn't approach them in that same kind of temperature you would a woman that's basically bending down, showing a thong and wearing a mini skirt and knee-length leather boots, for example. You know what I'm trying to say? Even though they could be have the same mindset, but the uniform is there of appropriateness, where a woman's head is covered and she's covered head to toe, wearing feminine clothing, and it's not revealing every single crevice, every single uh, curve and bump and lump on her body. You know what I'm trying to say? You've got to wear appropriate attire as well, man. Sometimes women don't understand that, how men get triggered easily. Let's go here. Because men and women have different roles, okay? I know in this world it's not ideal because of the lack of money, and money doesn't go far enough. But if you're a brother that's blessed to earn a great salary, or you've got a business that's functioning so far, and besides, we're at the end, and this financial infrastructure is going to crash soon. So if you've got a wife that doesn't really need to work, tell her to stay at home. Tell her to take care of the children. Tell her to be a woman. Okay, as they say in this feminine energy. Tell her to take care of the house, keep it clean, keep the food warm. So all you got to do is focus and worry about work. Jake can do better if he's got one thing to focus on. All right, one thing to focus on is to protect and provide, to pray, protect, and provide. Pray to Yahweh Shemashai, protect and provide for your family, and do whatever you can on your end with the knowledge that you have, and obviously take care of the stuff around the house that a woman is not supposed to do. Let a woman clean, let a woman iron, let a woman look good, let a woman make the dinner, let a woman take care of the children, change nappies, take the children to school, pick them up. Sometimes you do it now and again as well. If you got a week off work, yeah, nothing wrong with helping a woman out, especially if you got the time. And it's a pleasure to pick up your children from school. I'm just saying, but for the most part, a man needs to be a man, a woman needs to be a woman. Okay, if these roles were still kept that way, there's a lot more balance. Okay, there's a lot more mental stability. There's a lot more mental anguish is reduced as well. All right, because when man and woman are both busy, they're doing the same things. All right, there's no organization. What happens? What happens? The relationship fails. The children are not being nurtured and taken care of. Who's raising them? That black box in your room, or that now these days it's that flat screen. And who's on the screen? A bunch of momos, weirdos, trans people, right? AI. Every show you put on has got some kind of HOMO vibe to it. That's who's raising them. And I've been hearing stories about colleagues, at work. I mean, I've been hearing stories, man. People of today in their 50s talking about their friends who've got children, right? And their children are trying to decide whether they're boys or girls. It's like it's a normal thing for most of a school population to be GAY. And you know what Leviticus 20:13 says, isn't it? Okay? That's what it leads to. It leads to the destruction of a household, man. All right? That's why when you see old shows, that's why they call it Happy Days. The 50s was the best time for America. Children were balanced. Mothers were at home. Money was plentiful. Neighborhoods were clean and safe, well, especially for the so-called white man. Right? And it was never safe for the Israelites because this is not our rest. Yeah? Okay? Everyone has to have their specific roles. Okay? If you're a manager of a company, but you're doing the cleaning, and you're doing the filing, and you're doing the phone calls, you're doing other roles at the same time, right? When it's supposed to be a hierarchy, obviously there's going to be chaos, right? And then what your particular remit is, which could be, I don't know, just overseeing and maybe dealing with the larger clients, for example, right? That's going to suffer, right? Your particular area is going to suffer, which is your responsibility. That's why everything suffers, because a woman is doing things that she should not be doing, and a man is doing things that he should not be doing. That's why there's chaos. That's why balance is necessary. Okay, but when you say a woman needs to be at home, women don't like that. But when these bitches gotta go out there and work those hours and do the same thing as a job, and then they're on their rag, and then they got a headache, and then they this now I got backache and I got cramps and shit. Then they gotta make excuses. I gotta take a day off work or whatever, you know. Or I'm having a baby. I gotta take 9 months off. You know, these things. Men and women are not the same, man. All right, I'm just gonna play this now. So, the reason for this video is to show that balance is necessary, and Cassius was speaking common sense, you know. But people, even back then, this is like what, over 50 years ago, right? And and people then, this is when it started creeping in, all this feminism shit. In the 60s, 70s, it got heavier. By the 80s, uh, women are saying, oh, a man's got to have a job as you can't deal with me. Yeah, well, obviously a man's got to earn money, but nowadays from a a job, basically a woman saying that you got to pay my bills if you want to deal with me. That was the 80s. Nowadays you can't have a job. You got to have your own business. You got to be a millionaire. You got to be 7 feet tall. Now, nothing wrong with a woman desiring a comely man. That's cool. Like we men, Jake man want a comely woman, but some of these women look like shit to even desire a comely man. You got to stay within your lane, as they say, right? But anyway, let's play this video, man.
In terms of when you were talking about the play before you did it, when you were last with us in grade 4, one of the things you said was you were going to cut out any profanity, which you've done. And one of the other things you said was it should have the right attitude to women and so on. And you just said just now that maybe women should do the dancing and so on. What do you think? I mean, what do you tell your wife? What do you believe is the right role for a woman? In fact,
just I think the woman is her role to me would be to take care of her husband. I mean, women are not warriors. Women send the men off to war and waiting for them when they come in from work. Have dinner.
He's right. Women are not warriors. You shouldn't be in the army. You shouldn't be in the police force. You shouldn't be security guards. That's where you get thrown around rag dolls. You shouldn't be trying to chuck punches at a man and expect not to get hit back. You women think that everything is sweet. Women are oblivious to certain dangerous situations. Men are more alert because it's in a man's nature to be alert all the time, even if you're so-called relaxed. You're constantly alert, especially now that if you're a Jake man in the truth. And the Lord asks us to be circumspect.
Ready, and I mean, send the men off to war and take care of a husband. I mean, women are not warriors. Women send the men off to war and waiting for them when they come in from work. Have dinner ready. And I mean, food's got to be ready. I'm sure all husbands like to come home from work to a full course meal, home cooked food. You understand? And that's her job. Have the food ready, bring the children into the world, take care of them, change all the diapers. And,
I've seen a video as well. There was a Jake man married to some ninja end-up, right? Some so-called black woman. He said, "I work all day. You're at home." And by the way, he's married to this bitch. He goes, Why isn't there no dinner on the table? Why is there nothing made? Why aren't you even ready? This bitch is in a robe, probably hasn't even showered yet, right? Probably still got coal around her eyes and that, Probably hasn't even brushed her teeth. And she's just sitting there in her robe. Some of these women are nasty, right? And she didn't even cook him dinner. And he's been at work all day. And some of you jakes want to deal with the so-called black queen, man. Right? Get you a woman of another nation. All right? You need to get out of that mindset of just being, I want the black queen. All that bullshit, man. You want to stay with an Israelite woman? Get yourself a Northern Kingdom one. All right? They're a little bit more feminine. And they damn right look better too. Right?
work to a full course meal, home cooked food. You understand?
And home cooked food. What did Shahrazad Ali say? Even though she's in the Islam bullshit, but she's still coming out with common sense where a man needs another woman. She's okay with men having multiple wives. And that comes from the scriptures. All right. She's also saying that how can your man, right, the so-called black man, she's really refers to all the time, which is true, which is cool because the tribe of Judah is the head tribe, and the rest of the tribes follow, right? But she's saying that how can you expect your man to deal with the world when he's not even being nourished properly? You're giving him unclean foods like pork and shrimp, crab, lobster, right? All these other unclean things, and you give him like these TV dinners. You're supposed to cook from scratch. You're supposed to make him a home cooked meal, a lawful one. So your husband has got like peace of mind when he comes home. He's nourished properly. He's rested properly. So he can go out there and face the world, right? If a soldier goes to the battlefield, right, and he doesn't have the right artillery, weaponry, okay, and he doesn't even have at least something in his system, right? I'm talking about a prepared soldier, right, with the right equipment, right, or even the right kind of food. How is he supposed to go out there and fight? All right, how's he supposed to go out there and fight? And Jake is a soldier. You got to deal with the trenches of being in Esau's kingdom, man. So nourishment is definitely a requirement, man. A woman keeping her mouth shut is beautiful. When do these women ever shut their mouth? They like to talk, man.
They're ready, and take care of a husband. I mean, women are not warriors. Women send the men off to war and waiting for them when they come in from work. Have dinner ready. And I mean, food's got to be ready. I'm sure all husbands like to come home from work to a full course meal, home cooked food. You understand? And that's her job. Have the food ready, bring the children into the world, take care of them, change all the diapers, and that's their job. And to answer the phone and just be a woman, be a mother.
Do you all agree with that, ladies? Do you agree with that?
Not many of the younger ones that say no. They like to go out and party, have parties, and sit on the bars and be out with everybody.
Yeah.
They don't want to be settled yet. But a real woman should be in the house, not on the streets, for everybody to look at and feel on and pat on and whistle at. And then a woman can pull a man down or make him, If a man's got a strong woman, he's strong,
You hear that? A woman can pull a man down or make him. Yeah. And he doesn't. He said a woman should be at home. Keep us at home, right? Let's go to that scripture again. Or did I read it? Or did I not? I think I deleted it. Let's go get it. Keep us at home, obedient to their husbands. King James Version. So yeah, it's Titus 2 and 5. Yeah, Titus 2 and 5. To be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of the Most High be not blasphemed. Right? To be keepers at home. Right? Doesn't mean you've got to constantly be at home. You just go out when you're with your husband. You don't go out on your own. You don't gad abroad. You don't be out there with wanton eyes either, man. Where we at?
Like how would the president or any great world figure's wife look?
Look how he talks about it. How listen, he breaks it down, man. Scriptures come to life.
And then a woman can pull a man down or make him, If a man's got a strong woman, he's strong, Like how would the president or any great world figure's wife look just commonly out every day, standing on the corner in a bar where anybody can walk in and seal, drinking a beer or something, Especially when a man is known in type world prestige, you never hardly see that women, mainly in African and Asian countries. Even when the men and women having meetings, all the ladies go in one room and talk, and the men go in another room. Because men who know
That's how
nature,
it should be.
especially those with beautiful wives, don't even want them in eyesight of other men because they are men and they know how they look, so they don't want nobody else looking at theirs. So they put them in the back room.
So you really believe the old slogan about a woman's place is in the home?
Yeah. A woman is the man's field which produces his nation. If he don't protect his field, he'll produce a bad nation. A nation is no greater than its females. And this is one problem black people have in America that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has straightened them out on, our religious leader.
All right. We don't care about that Elijah Muhammad bullshit. So, man, Cassius is speaking common sense, man. You know, he speaks common sense most of the time when he talks, you know. And this is another prime example of the scriptures coming to life, how things should be, you know, in an ideal world. And obviously, when you go adverse to the scriptures I just read, and there's many more, and even Cassius's little breakdown of how a woman should be, when you go against to that, what do you have? What's the result of going against the scriptures? Okay, you have the generation of today, Generation Z. Look how they behave, look how they dress, look how they act, look at their mothers, look at their fathers, look at the neighborhoods. That's the result. Even though, you know, it's the curses, but it's Esau's creation. Esau's creation is the ninja, you know. You see in Clone Tyrone, they clone Tyrone, yeah, that's what it's called. The Jamie Foxx movie, you know. They've designed you that way to cut you off from being a nation. Okay, so going against the scriptures is where we are today, man. Follow the scriptures, you'll be in a better place, you know. And he said it. He goes, you can tell. He basically paraphrasing what Cassius said. He said that you can tell the quality of a nation by how their women are. And look how our women are. CUM buckets for all nationalities, and even our own people. What do? Just put them in rap videos for other nations to lust after, man. You know, emphasizing their emphasizing their backsides and everything. You know, that's what they used to say back in the day. What's a so-called black woman known for? A sex tigress or something like that, or sex something like that. They used to say, you know. And I'm gonna keep yapping on, but you know what? I'm gonna leave it there, man. So listen, this is what it's about, man. You go against the scriptures, we have the fruits of going against the scriptures, which is our people as a bulk today, right? So even Cassius is speaking common sense. That's what I call it. Cassius speaking common sense. And we all praise Yahweh Shem Shalom.